In my last video titled 3 Questions to Get Started, I mentioned there were 2 factors which will decide for you how long you would like to be prepared for. The first is going to be cost, and the second is going to be storage. This video is all about storage. So let's just jump right into it. The storage capacity in your home, condo, apartment, or townhouse is going to determine the size of your emergency kit. So whether you're ready to buy one of those ready-to-go kits or make your own kit, either way, if you want the products in your emergency kit to last before things expire, you're going to want to make sure you store them correctly. The rule of thumb when storing emergency supplies is to store them in a reasonably consistent, cool, dry, dark place. Specifically, that means you're going to want to ensure that they're protected from sunlight, temperature fluctuation, and pests. It's highly recommended that you keep your emergency kit inside your home. So, where's a good place inside your home? One great place to put emergency supplies would be an interior closet or even a room like this. Underneath the bed, minus a kitty. In cabinets in your kitchen. In a basement if you have one. Even in a hallway closet. Underneath a stairwell. Now, a note of caution here. If there's a water heater inside the stairwell, you do not want to store emergency kit items there. The heat emitting from the water heater will affect the products in your emergency kit, and there's always the possibility that if your water heater leaks, it could damage your emergency supplies, depending on what type of storage containers you put your stuff in. Now, here are some places I recommend you do not store emergency supplies. Anywhere outside. If you have a shed, definitely not in a shed. Underneath a patio deck. In a vehicle. If you have a crawl space under your house, you do not want to store emergency supplies there, nor do you want to put it up in an attic. A garage. Now, the exception being if you use your garage only for storage, you don't put a car in there, and you're not accessing it frequently and it's insulated, it should be fine. If you live in an apartment, a townhome, or a condo complex and they have those storage units in the carport sometimes, you don't want to go there either. Accessibility is important. Keep your emergency supplies in an area where they're readily available. If you're limited on your storage options, I recommend in these cases that you split up your emergency kit into 2 small manageable parts and ensure that your emergency food and water rations are in the most desirable area. Now we come to the part of what do you store your emergency supplies in? There are a variety of options. The rule of thumb is that you're going to want to store these emergency items in some type of container that protects. So here's some suggestions. A backpack or even a duffel bag. A bucket. Totes. There are many different sizes to choose from. So by now you should have a good idea of where you can store your emergency supplies and what type of container you want to use to store those supplies in. There's still one last item I'd like to mention. Remember to check your emergency supplies on a frequent basis, at least once a year. You do this for 2 reasons. First, you want to make sure that everything in your emergency kit is in good order and ready to use. And second, you'll need to switch out the items that have expiration dates. Things like your emergency food and water rations, as well as any medication that you store in the kit, or even batteries. And speaking of batteries, ideally it's recommended to keep batteries in their original packaging. Avoid loading batteries into electronic devices until it's necessary. This will cause a battery to degrade faster as well as corrode the terminals. So that's it. A number of things to consider here where you're going to store your emergency kit. I hope you found this video helpful. Please like, share, and subscribe, and be sure to check back in the near future for more videos.